The 2020 college football season is done, and as we head into a brand new offseason here in 2021, today I'll be giving you guys my way too early college football rankings for this upcoming season. And just to remind you guys before we get started here, these are way too early rankings for a reason. Obviously, a lot of things can go into an offseason. We can see a player get injured. We can see a player transfer away from a team. So a lot of things can happen here in an offseason. That's why these are way too early rankings, just to give you guys a quick overview and a quick look as to what you can expect in the upcoming season, as well as who you can expect possibly in the college football playoff in the later parts of the year. So that being said, this will be a top 25 here today. We're going to be starting out with 1 through 5, and your number one, not much of a surprise, is going to be Alabama. Of course, Alabama, I really can't sleep on this team until Nick Saban is retired, because this team continues to have great recruiting classes. They continue to have great production coming right back in. Bryce Young is going to be the quarterback for this team this upcoming season. Mac Jones is departing to the NFL, so he will be an NFL quarterback next season. Bryce Young, the number one quarterback recruit in the 2020 signing class, will be taking over at quarterback for Alabama. And really, obviously we haven't really heard a whole lot about Bryce Young yet, considering he's only been a high school athlete, but I think Alabama this season will be just fine with him, especially considering, this team is losing a decent amount of talent on the defensive side, but otherwise, Alabama is returning a lot of talent. This is going to be a team that certainly should be right back in the ring for a chance at a college football playoff title once again. If you look at this offense in general, they got lots of great talent returning, and of course, when you got Bryce Young, number one quarterback recruit, that's going to be huge as well. Number two is going to be Clemson, of course. We've seen a lot of great teams in the past, but this Clemson team should be really good next season once again. I think Clemson certainly has got a great chance to make a run at a title next season. And even though Trevor Lawrence is off to the NFL, this team will not be having Trevor Lawrence this next season. When we saw DJ Uiagalelei this past season for a couple of games when he was taking over for Trevor Lawrence, when Trevor Lawrence was down with COVID, DJ did a really good job. He played very well for Clemson, led this team to a couple more wins. Of course, they lost to Notre Dame while he was starting, but then again, Notre Dame was a great team. They're a top 5 team in the nation this past season. So all around, Clemson this next season is definitely going to be right back in the conversation for a college football playoff appearance. If you look at Clemson, this team is returning a lot more than Alabama is. The only reason why I've got Clemson a little bit lower than Alabama here is mainly because I just think Alabama, when you're winning national titles like Alabama is, this team is going to have a lot of confidence, a lot of experience moving forward, which, if you look at Clemson, Clemson's won some national titles too, but this Alabama team and Nick Saban, it's tough to go against them right now. Oklahoma's going to be number 3, and this may come as a surprise to some of you guys, considering Oklahoma, they had a good season in 2020. They started out the season 1-2, which really was detrimental in the end to them, considering they ended up beating Florida 55, to 20 in their bowl game this past offseason, or in the past postseason. So if you look at Oklahoma here, with Spencer Rattler, they got him coming back. This Oklahoma team is going to be definitely a big contender, I think, for the college football playoff this upcoming season. They're probably my early favorite to win the Big 12. Iowa State is going to be tough. Iowa State and Oklahoma are definitely going to be the 2 top teams, I think, in the Big 12 this upcoming season. But Oklahoma, watch out for them. This could definitely be their year. Spencer Rattler is looking really good right now. He improved a ton over the 2020 season. If you look at the start of the season to the end, Spencer Rattler doesn't even look like the same player. This Oklahoma team improved a ton over the course of the 2020 season. Georgia comes in at number 4, and if you look at Florida and Georgia, I think Georgia's going to be kind of in the same situation that Florida was in this past season. In the 2020 offseason, I thought Florida was easily going to be one of the top teams in the nation last season, which they were in the top 10 quite a bit. And of course, Kyle Trask had a huge part in that. Kyle Trask was a big reason why I thought Florida was going to be so good, which they were a good team, but certainly Georgia, with having JT Daniels coming back at quarterback, this is a team that I definitely think if JT Daniels can stay healthy, this Georgia team will be right back in the conversation to make a run at the college football playoff. Kirby Smart, he's led Georgia to 44-9, it looks like. That's his record with Georgia over the past 4 years. And really, having JT Daniels back, that's going to have a huge effect on this Georgia team. I think Georgia's going to have a huge impact on the nation next season. They're definitely going to be a team to watch out for. Ohio State comes in at number 5, and the main reason for that is because of the losing production that this Buckeye team is facing going into 2021. Justin Fields will no longer be with this team. They also got 3 quarterbacks who are going to be battling it out for the starting position. You got 2 4-star recruits from the 2020 class, and then you got 1 5-star recruit from the 2021 class who are going to be coming in. So it should be pretty fun to see who wins the quarterback situation there. But otherwise, receiving core looks great. They got Chris Olave coming back. That's going to be a huge a huge return for this team considering Chris Olave was expected to take off to the NFL. But Garrett Wilson's also coming back. They got Julian Fleming coming back, Jackson Smith also coming back. So this receiving core is looking great going into the 2021 season. Trey Sermon's going, it looks like, to the NFL, so he will no longer be with this team. Master Teague will be the top running back for Ohio State. It looks like the defensive side is also losing a few players on this defensive line. This team in general on the defensive side is going to be taking a couple of hits. So for Ohio State, they're going to be number 5 on the list, but they're certainly going to be definitely a Big Ten contender and definitely a college football playoff contender once again this upcoming season. Number 6 is going to be Iowa State, also the other big team going into this 2021 season in the Big 12. I certainly think Iowa State's going to have a good chance to win the conference. I think it's either going to be them or Oklahoma. I got Oklahoma winning it right now. I just like Spencer Rattler a bit better than Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's a great quarterback, but Spencer Rattler is just getting started. He's a young quarterback who's improved a ton over the past season, and he's going to be really good going into this upcoming season. Brock Purdy's also going to be good. This Iowa State team in general is going to be excellent. They're definitely going to be one of the top-ranked teams in the nation pretty much this entire season. I think coming up in 2021, they're easily going to be in the top 10, I think, for a good long while. I think Iowa State in general with Brock Purdy and Breece Hall's coming back too, top running back. He had an outstanding season in 2020, definitely one of the best running backs in the nation. I think he was leading the nation in a few stats there, so Breece Hall is going to have a huge impact on this team. It's kind of crazy to see Iowa State at the top, but here they are. I mean, if you look at Iowa State, this is a team in the 2000s. This team really was one of the worst teams in the Big 12, but since then, this team, especially Matt Campbell being their head coach, like ever since Matt Campbell has been head coach of Iowa State, this team has improved a ton. Number 7 is going to be North Carolina, and the main reason why North Carolina is going to be at number 7 here is going to be because of Sam Howell. I mean, Sam Howell is a huge impact on this team. He's very young. He's going to have a very bright future in the NFL, I think, and with Sam Howell, I think this team is going to be just fine. I mean, he's played very well over the course of the 2020 season, and they're returning a ton of talent other than him. Cincinnati is going to be coming in at number 8, and Cincinnati I thought about putting at number 6 or even number 7. I mean, they're returning their quarterback, Desmond Ridder. That's going to be a huge impact. He was a great player over the course of the 2020 season. Cincinnati is definitely going to be, I think, the top team in the group of 5 this upcoming season. Notre Dame comes in at number 9. Of course, if you look at Notre Dame's team, they're losing Ian Book. He's not going to be with the team anymore. He's been with the team for quite a while here. But, of course, they got Jack Cohn coming in from Wisconsin. He's the Wisconsin transfer that was injured for the 2020 season. But after we saw Graham Mertz take over at quarterback for Wisconsin, he did a decent job. Jack Cohen's coming over to Notre Dame, and I think that's going to have a huge impact on this Notre Dame team. We've seen Jack Cohen play very well over the course of the past couple of seasons. The 2019 season in particular, he played pretty well. So I think Jack Cohen's going to be pretty motivated. It's going to be a nice switch up for him. I think he's going to do very well in the offense, and Notre Dame in general is going to be a top team once again next season because of that. Oregon comes in at number 10, and it may surprise you seeing Oregon this high, but this is really a team that I think has got a ton of potential going into this 2021 season. They got Tyler Shutt coming back at quarterback. They got some of the best potential in the nation, I would say. They're returning a ton of players. And this team in general is going to be, I'd say, one of the best teams in the Pac-12, if not the best. They've won 2 straight Pac-12 titles. I definitely think they'll be gunning for a 3rd this upcoming season. And really, this could be a college football playoff contender as well this upcoming season. Number 11 is going to be Texas A&M. Of course, they're losing Kellen Mond, which Kellen Mond, I'd say, was a very underrated quarterback. But the thing is, for Texas A&M, they would have easily been a college football playoff team last season if they just did not have Alabama in their division. I mean, Alabama is such a great team. It's just going to be tough for Texas A&M to get past them. Like, if this team was in the SEC East, I'd be pretty confident that we'd see Texas A&M end up winning out the division. I mean, they beat Florida last season. They just can't get past Alabama. That's the main problem for the Aggies moving forward is, they got to play Alabama every year since they're in their same division. So, if you look at Texas A&M, without Kellen Mond, they still got a couple of good quarterbacks that certainly should take his position just fine. But, there's a couple other question marks on the defensive side for Texas A&M. I am being a little more conservative on the Aggies going into this 2021 season for that very reason. They got several NFL players that will be going to the draft as well, so you got to keep that in mind as well. Wisconsin comes in at 12, and that may come as a surprise to some of you guys considering how disappointing of a team this team was in 2020. If you look at Wisconsin here, they got Graham Mertz coming back at quarterback. That's going to be huge moving forward. I think Graham Mertz is definitely a quarterback who's got a lot of potential. Even though Graham Mertz didn't play as well as I think Jack Cohn would have in 2020, Wisconsin still's got a lot of great returning production. They're definitely going to be a team to to watch out for moving forward in 2021, especially in the Big Ten West. I think they're probably my early favorite to win the division. Iowa comes in number 13, and really for Iowa here, the main reason why they're below Wisconsin in my rankings is because of their schedule. Their schedule is just brutal in comparison to Wisconsin's. Like, Wisconsin's is favorable. If you look at Iowa's here, Iowa's is not very favorable. They got to play Penn State. They got to play Northwestern on the road, Iowa State on the road. They got to play Wisconsin on the road, Nebraska on the road. This is going to be a tough schedule for the Hawkeyes. I mean, you got to play Iowa State too to boot once again. They also have to play Indiana. So this is going to be a tough schedule for Iowa this upcoming season. They've got to play two of the toughest opponents in the Big Ten East for their crossover game. So for Iowa this upcoming season, it's going to be tough for them to be able to beat out Wisconsin. I definitely think it's doable, but Wisconsin's got a much easier schedule than Iowa does. USC comes in at 14, and this is certainly a team that's got a lot on their hands moving into this 2021 season. They got Utah and Arizona State also in the Pac-12 South with them, and this is certainly going to be a team that's got a lot on their hands moving into this 2021 season. If they're going to win the division, I mean, you got two really good teams with Utah and Arizona State. They got to beat out for it. So, I mean, I think USC is the current favorite for me right now, especially considering they got quarterback Slovis, who continues to improve. He's going to have a huge part in this team this upcoming season. Indiana comes in at number 15. They were a huge surprise team in this past season. If you look at Indiana, the main reason why this team was so successful was because of Michael Penix. Like, at the end of the season, when Michael Penix was injured, this team really fell off quite a bit. And I think Indiana this upcoming season, if Michael Penix is healthy, this team should be right back in contention for a pretty good bowl game, possibly even a New Year's Six. Number 16 is going to come down to be Miami. And Miami's got Derek King coming back, but of course he had that ACL injury. And if Derek King is healthy for this upcoming season, I think Miami should be just fine. But this team in general has got a lot of question marks going into this upcoming season. They are losing a decent amount of production, but having Derek King back certainly should have a huge impact on this team. Arizona State comes in at 17, and they're also the other team, along with USC, that I definitely think has got potential to win that Pac-12 South Division. They got Jaden Daniels coming back. I thought Arizona State going into 2020 was going to be a huge dark horse contender, but of course Jaden Daniels didn't really play as well, and this team in general had a lot of COVID issues. So that was a big problem for the Sun Devils this past season. They only played in 4 games as well this past season. So Arizona State certainly was only scratching the surface this past 2020 season. But Arizona State moving forward, I definitely think is going to be a team to watch out for in 2021, especially considering they got Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Florida comes in at number 18. This is a team going into the 2020 season that I was really high on. Honestly, the past two off seasons, I've really been high on Florida. It's mainly because of Kyle Trask. Like, if you look at Kyle Trask going into 2020, I thought he was one of the most, if not the most, underrated quarterback in the nation. I also really liked Felipe Franks going into 2019. But Florida this season really does not have a very defined quarterback. Like, this team is going to have a bit of a quarterback battle there in Gainesville. So Florida is certainly going to be a team that I think has got potential to possibly make a run at the SEC East, but I think it's going to be Georgia's year. Florida's going to kind of be in the background. I don't think Florida's going to be a national contender, really. I mean, if they were going to be a national title team, last season was the year to do it. But Florida's going to be certainly a team that I think has got potential to be a top team in the SEC West, but they're just not going to be able to win it. LSU comes in at 19, and this was a team that was a huge disappointment this past season. I mean, this was a team that, if you look at the start of the year, I mean, LSU was absolutely horrible. They improved a ton over the course of the season, but the main reason why LSU was so bad last year was just because of how many players they lost. I think they lost like pretty much, I think it's 15 starters after 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they lost 10 to 15 starters after the 2019 season. LSU is returning, I think, every single starter on both sides of the ball except for one going into this 2021 season. So LSU, I mean, it's no problem. They're going to be right back to where they were a couple of seasons ago, I think, this year. And I'm just going to put them at 19 just to be kind of conservative with it, just to make sure that nothing busts too crazy. But LSU, I definitely think, is going to be a team that should be ranked once again this upcoming season for quite a while. I don't know if they're going to be a national contender next season, but I definitely think LSU's got potential to be a top 15, maybe even a top 10 team. Coastal Carolina comes in at number 20. They're returning a ton of talent. That's why they come into that position. They're returning their main quarterback, Grayson McCall. That's going to be huge going into this upcoming season. Coastal Carolina, I mean, they were a huge surprise team as well going into 2021. No one expected them to be as good as they were, but here we are. Coastal Carolina is going to be a top 20 team this upcoming season once again, I think. 21 is going to be Oklahoma State, and this team is returning Spencer Sanders at quarterback. That's going to be huge for this team. And really, Oklahoma State was a bit of a disappointment last year. I mean, if you look at the start of the season, this team was on fire, and they were looking like a, I'd say, national contender at one point until Oklahoma came in and really took that spot from them. But Oklahoma State, they just got to finish out their seasons. Like that's kind of a trend that we see out of Oklahoma State when they've got a super talented team. Is they start out really fast, they play really well in the first half of the season, but the second half not so much. So for Oklahoma State, they got to really make sure that they can play consistently over the course of the season. I think we could see a lot of success out of the Cowboys this season. Washington comes in at 22, also a bit of a disappointing team, but this team was really young last year, so that's certainly a big exception there. But Jimmy Lake, of course, I mean, this team went 3-1 this past season. They only played 4 games, but they won the North Division. So, I mean, there you go. If Washington really didn't have any COVID issues, I think this team would have been a top team in the nation. But Washington certainly is a team to watch out for going into 2021. TCU comes in at 23. It's been a while since we've seen TCU be in the top 25, but I think this season is going to be their year. They've definitely got a lot of returning production coming back. They got Max Duggan coming back at the quarterback position. Definitely going to be a player to watch out for there in the Big 12. I think TCU should be a top 4 team in the Big 12 this upcoming season. Ole Miss comes in at 24. Also, they had a great finish off to the season in the Rebels. They beat Indiana in their bowl game, and granted, Indiana didn't have Michael Penix, but this is certainly a team in Ole Miss that I think could be a huge dark horse team in the SEC this season. Penn State comes in at 25, and this was certainly a big disappointment team of this past season. I'd probably say that they were the biggest disappointment of this past college football season. I mean, they started the season 0-5. They were just a mess in general. I'm not sure what happened with Penn State, but this is certainly a team that I think will be back and ready to go for 2021. They should be right back in the conversation in the Big Ten East, I would say. I think they're returning a ton of production. This team was pretty young last year, but this season they're definitely going to be right back in the conversation, I think, for the Big Ten East, and they should be just fine moving forward. But that being said, that's my 2021 way too early rankings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this. Once again, these are way too early rankings for a reason. Like, a lot of things can happen over the course of an off season. These are just to give you guys a quick look as to what you guys can expect moving forward into this off season, and also moving forward into this upcoming college football season. So that being said, once again, appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys all later.